All right, let's bring in Ryan Leaf to the show now. We like to talk quarterbacks in Chicago. You know that.
Even though you've never had one.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
we're working on it, Ryan.
See, you could have
Don't
saved
laugh.
us back in the day. It's all right.
Everybody just started laughing around here.
Because I'm funny, man. People don't think I'm funny. I'm hilarious.
Everybody laughs at the Bears quarterback situation.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm saying it. And they're like, listen to the Leaf. What are we going to listen to Leaf about?
But that's why we'd listen, right?
You know, they go, what is this bus going to talk? Well, we're kismet. We're partners in crime here, you know, the Bears and me.
What'd you see with big Caleb Williams this year, Ryan? Give a Leaf breakdown here.
Yeah, listen, it's something that I can't figure out about the Chicago Bears. If they knew they were on the fence with Eberflus, then you scrap it before the season starts. You go get the guy that you'll match with the quarterback, and that's what you do. You've done everything you possibly can to set up Caleb for failure. You've fired his head coach midway through the season. You've given him 3 different play callers already, and now you're on to your 3rd head coach as he goes into his 2nd year. How do I know this? It's exactly what happened to me. They fired my head coach in week 6, another offense, brand new head coach, a 3rd offense by the time I headed into my 2nd season. There's no consistency. And it just dumbfounds me that it's dumbfounding that the Bears continue to do this. They can't figure it out. They've never paired newbies together, ever, rookies together. There's always been a lame duck or something here that's differentiated. You look at what Washington did this year. And what they went and did, though, is get a coordinator, a great coordinator to be a head coach, because you want the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes dynamic, where no matter how good they are, no matter how good the scheme is, the offensive coordinator can never go away because he's there. And that's what happens when you hire defensive-minded head coaches. The offensive coordinator can always go if you hit it off. If you're Liam Cohen, if you are Dave Canales in Tampa with a defensive-minded head coach. So that's the scenario then. I do like the fact that Caleb didn't turn it over during the losing streak, but what that also meant to me, and I called the debacle, guys. I called the Thanksgiving Day massacre.
Oh, that's right. You were there.
Yeah, I called that game in Detroit. And Jason Benetti was on the call, and I just listened to the perfect play-by-play of that ending. What are they doing? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? It just that's how, because he had to have looked out and seen that Caleb didn't know what was going on, and as a head coach, you had to call timeout.
But so we had Russ Tucker on earlier in the week, and he was talking about the same thing. He's like, if you're the quarterback, you got to call time there. How much do you put?
Caleb didn't know it. Caleb did not know where he was at. Did not know what was happening. He did not know where he was at or what was happening. And so that falls on the head coach to make the play there and make that decision. Because you can save him. You can save him with the timeout and give him enough time where he can be a playmaker, make a play over the middle where the team can have enough time to run the kicking unit out, kick the game time field, go to overtime. But that's what it was, and the poor guy got fired.
Well, yeah, there's no question Caleb had some blame in there, but there was also, and we broke this down endlessly, as you can imagine, because the guy got fired the next day. There was 3 spots there where Flus could have called timeouts. Well, one, it could have been immediately, like that's your game plan, and that would have been fine. Okay, that wasn't what you were going for. Then once you realize when Caleb's starting to change the play, and then you bang it. Now then you lost valuable seconds, but so what? It's still better than not running a play. And then finally at the end, when all else fails, all right, we totally screwed that up. Call timeout. Let's try a Hail Mary. He did none.
He did not. No, he was horrible. But Caleb didn't know where he was at.
Yeah, I know.
He didn't know the situation.
Yeah.
And that happens. You're a rookie. It's rookie moments. I think Ben Johnson is a great hire. I will say this though, and I was a little hesitant with this. Ben Johnson's offense and his scheme is all about timing. Mm-hmm. And Caleb Williams, there's nothing to him about timing at all. Like everything is off time for him. I talked to you guys about this early in the year before the season even started, where he was going to have a problem is he vacated the pocket out the back. And he did it in college, and I said that's just not going to work at the NFL level. You're going to take too many sacks. And I thought he was going to learn a few games in, but he didn't learn. He kept doing it all year long. Like he thought eventually he was going to break a tackle and make a huge play and get over the top. And Ben Johnson's offense is go watch Jared Goff. Everything's time essence. And so, Caleb's capable of doing that, very much so. And so we'll see what this offseason looks like for that.
But so if he called you up, hey, Ryan, Caleb Williams, I just want to pick your brain on this. I know that you've had a similar start to your career. What are the things that I need to do to be successful in my 2nd year? What would you tell him?
I said, no one should hear from you this offseason. You should be just absolutely not seen. You just go to work in the lab. and when you come out, you look like, the Red Hulk all of a sudden, it's just like they make them red now. What? I mean, what's going on? That's what I want to see. I want to see that Marvel change for him in his year 2. Don't want to hear anything. I want him to be in the lab, going through the Ben Johnson experience. And then when he comes out, when the season starts, I don't say I want him to look like a totally different quarterback, but to be successful in Ben Johnson's offense, he's going to have to look a bit like a totally different quarterback in terms of timing, right? The ball's going to have to come out. He cannot hold it. And sometimes rookies just have to go through that process and realize that they can't evade 300-pound linemen like they could in college. Like, first time Warren Sapp ran me down, I was just like, what? Dude, look at him. He looks like he's, he doesn't belong on a – looks like he belongs like in a
sumo wrestling,
a Slim Fast, commercial or something like that. And instead, he's chasing me down outside the pocket. He had 320 pounds. Right. It takes some time to figure that out, and he's got the weapons. I mean, the thing about it offensive, they have the weapons. They got a guy that runs routes better than anybody in Keenan Allen. You got Roma Dunze, who's going to be in his second year. And then you got, DJ Moore, who's a guy that can take the top off and do crazy things. So this team, and DeAndre Swift is an absolute stud. So this team's ready. It's just a matter of whether or not the quarterback can meet the expectations.
Right. So when you talk about not escaping out of the back of the pocket and different things that are on the field, I think a lot of the stuff that started to come out during the season was how you work Monday through Saturday. How do you work when nobody's watching? And for you, like, what advice would you give to Caleb?
What were some of the things you were hearing?
Just in terms of just attention to detail.
I don't want to say it was so easy for him or for me to go in, do all the things I was supposed to from 9 to 5 in the sport, and then to go out and have success, and then to see him not go out and have the success and him kind of start. When was the point that he realized, like, oh, like there has to be more?
Yeah.
And I think that's what people were looking for. So I get your point there. It was odd. There was just something a little odd to it. So I was out on the field before the Thanksgiving Day game, and I was talking to Ryan Poles, and he was very honest with me and talked to me about the path they've been on with Caleb and how it's been going. But if you looked at the roster, all the coaches have their names in the position coach where they coach, but a lot of the positions, did you notice that it's a slash quarterback, like running back slash quarterback for like 4 different guys. And I didn't quite understand that. And then I walked out on the field, and then there's like Caleb over here, all the backups, Bajent and that crew, they're all kind of like, in their I don't know, grays or something like that, warming up. And it was almost like Caleb was all decked out. Like, I kind of looked at him like he was the Pope, and he was just kind of brought around the Pope mobile. And here's all the peasants over here. And, I went up and talked to Caleb, and, I told him who I was. I don't know if he knows who I am or anything. And I just told him I was, if there's anything I ever could do to help, let me know. And I gave my number to Poles as well. And there was a sense that there was something like that he was just better than everybody a little bit. And that was just my impression. And I could be completely wrong because everybody in the locker room and everybody talked about him as a great leader and down to earth and everything like that. But it just seemed really odd. Like there was so much attention paid to this guy. I almost felt like everybody was left behind a little bit this year.
What do you, for you, when you talk about what maybe could have made your career go in a different trajectory, talk about coaching, all these players, not just Caleb, but a lot of the players came out and said, we need tougher coaching. We talked 5 days a week about it. So we're like, well, there's a half of it that says it's an indictment on the players, but then this is a huge indictment on the coaching staff. So I'm curious from your perspective, tough coaching, how does that resonate with you versus somebody that's going to teach you and put you in the best position to be great?
Love tough coaching. My college coach was as tough on me as anybody. We could have some fall down dragouts, but there was nothing but respect at the end of the day there, and we figured out the best way to get through it. And I loved him. I just loved him to death. And then I get to San Diego, and it's Kevin Gilbride, who's just like that. Like, he is confrontational. He's in your face, and it is great. And I loved him to death. And then, man, we're 3-2, and I wake up the next morning, and San Diego fires head coach Kevin Gilbride. It just was like, I mean, how are you trying not to help your second overall draft pick, quarterback, offense, all of it. And then when the coaching search goes, you go hire a guy in the Pac-10 conference who's never had a winning record, where my coach, who has just been to the Rose Bowl for the first time in 67 years, whose quarterback is currently the quarterback in San Diego, who knows the offense like the back of his hand, and you don't hire him. It amazes me what teams will do wrongly. I don't know if wrongly is a word.
It's a word. It's a word.
It's a word today. And what Chicago did this last year to Caleb Williams was about as wrong as you could have done anything.
100%.
100%. You go, if you were on the fence, not even a little bit with Eberflus, get his ass out of there, right? And you go get a guy that's going to be, you're going to tie your shoelaces together, you know, and you're going to do the 3-man race together all your life. That's what you do. You just see what Washington, Dan Quinn, and Jaden Daniels did. I mean, that's an amazing story when it's all said and done.
Well, I want to circle back to something you were talking about earlier, which was just kind of the idea of there's being too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes with these quarterbacks. What did you like having more of just like, hey, here's my coach versus – because one of the things the Bears did this past year, and I'm a little even worried about it so far with Ben Johnson and the amount of coaches he's already hiring, passing game coordinators, you know, all that type of stuff. It's like, what do you exactly do here? The Bears, like, pivoted last year, and they got a run game coordinator, pass game coordinator. Now you got quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator. It's like, there's just – I thought there were way too many voices in Caleb Williams' ear just to start his career. Do you have any strong thoughts on that?
You see, I don't. I think that ultimately there's only one voice in the quarterback's ear, and that's usually the coordinator and the quarterback coach. I think when you have those, what you're doing is you're just allowing these other individuals to help game plan. The coordinator's the one that's going to scheme everything up. He just needs, and what he's done is he's delegated. You know, all that says, and when you put pass game coordinator, it's just allowing them to get paid a little more money. They're still doing the things that they do as assistant coaches. So that type of stuff doesn't worry me at all. Ben Johnson's going to be the final word. Like Matt Nagy's the guy that coordinates all week for Kansas City, and allows Andy to go be Andy, the head coach, and then he calls the plays. He's got the call sheet. My coach in college, Mike Price, we had an offensive coordinator, run game coordinator that did everything, and then Mike, you know, called the plays on Saturdays. Same with Kevin Gilbride. June Jones was my quarterback coach. So, I mean, this is not something new. You know, at any time, if there was too many voices in his ear, that was because Matt Eberflus allowed it to happen. And I don't think for a minute that Ben Johnson's going to allow anybody else in the ear of Caleb Williams but him.
So let's talk about Ryan Leaf off the field. You're wearing the Last Mile a sweatshirt here honoring the work you're doing, and I know that you got a special honor recently, which is incredibly cool for the journey you've been on.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm only here for 2 days this week. You know, I have to go to D.C. There's a coalition called the CHGO Coalition, and they work mainly with governmental grants and resources around education and treatment of mental illness and substance use disorder, and I'm being given the Newsmaker of the Year award for the work I've been doing around those and reducing the stigma. So that's pretty amazing. Pretty neat thing to be a part of.
I think when I first met you, it was about 7 years ago, and you were. I think it was at the start when you were just like, "Okay, I'm going to lean into this and talk about my story and be vulnerable in front of a microphone, in front of a camera." And now here you are. Let's call it a decade later. Like, what's been the most rewarding? Like, how do you even are you even able to look back at how scared you were then to just something that's like I assume fairly normal now that you talk about?
Yeah, it's always it's always odd when you rip off a Band-Aid in front of everybody. It's just scary, the pain. But I've gotten over that. Like, as soon as you do that, what happens is you remove the power of whatever that is, or whatever power people think they hold over you because they can call you, junkie or felon or bust or whatever. Once you accept it, once you talk about it, once you own it, there's just no power left in it. And so you essentially built your house out of glass, and you should just start carrying around boulders with you because you don't care. And that's what the last 10 years have been for me. And I think it's funny when I speak out or you're just absolutely transparent and frank with people, I think I'm like, haven't you seen what the last 10 years have been? Like, this is who I am. Like, I don't have anything to lose. You know, I was in the worst possible place in the world. I was devastatedly, you know, out of my mind with a drug addiction, willing to take my own life. I mean, like, there's nothing that can happen now at this point that can be worse than that. You know, so that is an unbelievable gift for me too. So I can talk absolute truth to power. I don't suffer any sort of fools who are fake or anything like that. And that's why working with The Last Mile has been really important, because it's broadcasting still, right? It's the show on Sirius XM, but it's more purposeful and it's kind of outside of the purview of sports broadcasting. I've kind of found some of the individuals in the sports broadcasting world to be pretty awful human beings. You guys are great.
Well.
But it's hard, you know. It's hard, and I don't hold my tongue on a lot of things, and so that doesn't benefit me. My wife always says, like, you know, I tell her when I don't have anything to lose, she's like, yeah, you do now. You support a family and kids, you know. So if you lose, you know, the broadcasting job, you know, I know, and she goes, that I know you love to do, you know, that is going to be costly. And she's right. She is right. But I also know that we can lose everything and we're going to be just fine.
It is interesting, though, like, because I'm new to the industry. I've just been in it 2-3 years, right? And it's funny, just as a fan that took in that, as a consumer to this media industry, I want authenticity. But then when you get in here, what you see a lot of is, like you talked about, like a lot of fake. And so you, like, for me, I want to be as real as I possibly can be. But a lot of the industry tries to, like, it's like almost like the model to kind of hide who you really are.
Yeah, I mean, right there.
Right.
What's that, McAfee? I mean, might be the biggest frauds I've ever met, you know? So it's you know, when you see it in real life, it's bothersome. And so I think people are scared because he's so powerful. But if I never had another broadcasting job in my life, it wouldn't matter. You know? So if I got blackballed from all that stuff because I call him a fraud and a con man, it doesn't matter. Because I can go do what I want to do. I can walk into a prison tomorrow and give back to people, and that will be more meaningful than ever, you know, talking about whether or not, you know, Myles Garrett should really be traded out of Cleveland, you know? We're talking about, you know, important things. We're not curing cancer here. You know, I love it. Like, right. I love what football has given me. But listen, you know, I also know what's real and what's not.
That's unbelievable. You do that, huh? Walk into prisons, have to have conversations.
So everywhere. I was just in San Quentin 2 weeks ago. In California, talking with those guys, and the warden there, he's new. He added rehabilitative center to the outside of the name of the San Quentin correctional facility, and just that addition of those words and that verbiage, that changed the stigma.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like, immediately. It just sounds different.
Yeah. Because 95% of the people that are currently incarcerated, they're going to get out. They're going to get out at some point. And so do you want them coming back to the community and taking advantage of it? Or do you want them to come back and try to contribute to the community? And that's what this program does. That's what The Last Mile does. It educates them. It teaches them coding. It teaches them audio and visual production. So when they get out, those are applicable
skills
to be your own boss if you need to. And their stories are incredibly powerful because of what they went through. And that's what essentially what the content of what people want now. So, yeah, and then whenever I travel, like, so when I came here to New Orleans, I knew I was going to be in New Orleans for a couple of days. I reached out to the Department of Corrections, and there's always security and protocols to get through to be able. But what my hope is every stop along the way, whenever I stop, wherever I'm at, I can, you know, pull aside 45 minutes to an hour and say, hey, I'd like to come by and talk to your population. Is that something it's possible? A lot of times it's not, simply because of security risks and clearance and things like that. But I always offer the opportunity. My warden, who was my warden in Montana, is now one in Ohio, and he's been one of my biggest, you know, advocates. And so every time I get into Ohio, I always go to his prison and talk to his inmates. And I learned, and I shouldn't say that I started this on my own. Jelly Roll does this, and every place that he goes for concerts, you know, and so that's where I kind of stole it from. And it gives guys hope in a place where a lot of people don't think they have hope.
That's some hero work there, man.
Yeah.
It's not hero work, but
it's a little bit of hero work.
It's
A
just
lot
work.
of people aren't going to do it. I'm 99.9, so you get my credit. So
Ryan, it's always good talking to you.
You guys are the best, man.
Thank
My
you
brother
so
lives in
much.
Chicago. I told you guys that, right?
Yeah, I think you did.
I
And
didn't know that.
and his wife works for the Bears.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Now we're-
she sells the sweets, man.
Now we're cooking.
Yeah.
Okay, with a little inside
Oh,
info
so
here on
she
the
gave the sweet
The Lions.
Derek Stevens, all the Lions fans, that George McCaskey.
Yes. Well, hey, if you're ever in Chicago,
And
you
he's
wanna stop.
and he lives on the West Loop, man. And he's just
Well, our
right by our
studios
studios.
in the West Loop. So if you're ever in town and you want to stop by, you're more than welcome.
I think he just took a job, if I recall, with FanDuel.
Okay.
I think he's like a VIP host for
They
him,
want to
so-
sponsor us deep down. I know they do.
That's
Well,
exactly-
maybe I'll connect the Little Leaf Man, and you guys can find a partnership there or something like that.
Let's do
Well,
it.
that's what trees are all about, right? The
Yep.
branches reaching out, and then
Yep.
you're the leaf.
That's why
my
you come to
dad
the Super
joke.
Bowl.
That's
And
my
I'm going to
dad-
make like a tree and leaf. All right, let's go.
Hey-oh.
We all silly like the mayor.